At 4:17 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, an American F-35C Lightning II flying patrol over the Strait of Hormuz transmitted an emergency squawk code that sent every United States naval asset within 200 nautical miles to immediate combat readiness. The aircraft, call sign Viper 2-1, operating from the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, broadcast a 7700 transponder code indicating critical in-flight emergency while positioned directly above the narrowest choke point through which 21% of the world's petroleum passes every single day. What happened in the next 47 minutes would expose a calculated Iranian trap, reveal the true capabilities of America's most advanced stealth fighter, and demonstrate why the balance of power in the Persian Gulf remains exactly where it has been for the past 4 decades. The emergency squawk appeared on air traffic control screens across the region simultaneously. Commercial Hong Kong traffic controllers in Dubai, Bahrain, and Muscat all detected the signal. Iranian air defense radars operating along the coastline picked up the transmission. The USS Gerald R. Ford's Air Operations Center registered the alert within 2.3 seconds. Naval vessels positioned throughout the strait adjusted their defensive postures, weapon systems went hot, and every pilot in the air received immediate tactical updates on their secure communication channels. This was not routine. An F-35 broadcasting emergency codes over the most strategically sensitive 21 miles of ocean on Earth creates instant global implications. Here is what you need to understand about what this means. The Strait of Hormuz is not just another body of water. It is the singular pressure point through which approximately 21 million barrels of crude oil transit daily, representing roughly $1.2 billion in petroleum value, moving through that narrow channel every 24 hours. When a $115 million fifth-generation stealth fighter experiences an emergency directly above this choke point, every commodity trader, every defense analyst, every military planner watching maritime traffic understands that whatever happens next will send ripples through global energy markets, diplomatic calculations, and military postures across 3 continents. The aircraft was 47 minutes from potential catastrophic failure, and the Iranian military was watching every second of it unfold. Before we go further into exactly what Iran was planning and why this emergency squawk was the trigger for something much larger, you need to subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell, because what you are about to hear about how the United States responded to this emergency reveals tactical capabilities that have never been publicly discussed, and the implications for what happens next in this region are developing faster than any news cycle can track. Subscribe now, because the next 48 hours in the Strait of Hormuz will determine whether this incident was an isolated mechanical failure or the opening move in a confrontation that could reshape Middle Eastern security architecture. The F-35C Lightning II represents the most advanced carrier-capable fighter aircraft ever produced. The variant operating from the USS Gerald R. Ford costs $115 million per unit, carries a wingspan of 43 feet specifically designed for carrier operations, can reach speeds exceeding Mach 1.6, and possesses stealth characteristics that make it effectively invisible to most radar systems at ranges beyond 25 miles. The aircraft carries an AN/APG-81 active electronically scanned array radar that can track multiple targets simultaneously while maintaining the pilot's stealth profile, integrates sensor data from other platforms through advanced data link systems, and can deliver precision-guided munitions with accuracy measured in single-digit meters from standoff ranges exceeding 50 nautical miles. When this aircraft broadcasts an emergency code, it is not a minor maintenance issue. It is a potential loss of a strategic asset carrying classified systems that adversaries would sacrifice significant resources to examine. The Iranian military understands this calculation perfectly. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates dozens of fast attack boats throughout the Strait of Hormuz, maintains coastal missile batteries armed with Chinese-supplied C-802 anti-ship missiles with ranges of 75 miles, and has spent 2 decades developing asymmetric warfare tactics specifically designed to exploit moments of American vulnerability in confined waters. An F-35 experiencing genuine mechanical emergency represents exactly the vulnerability Iran has prepared to exploit. The aircraft would need to either attempt emergency landing at the nearest suitable airfield, potentially in Oman or the United Arab Emirates, or try to reach the carrier despite unknown mechanical complications. Either option creates opportunities for Iranian interdiction, intelligence collection, or at minimum propaganda value from observing American technological failure in Iranian-claimed airspace. The USS Gerald R. Ford, positioned approximately 87 nautical miles southeast of the strait, immediately launched its Ready Alert aircraft. Two FA-18E Super Hornets went airborne within 4 minutes of the emergency squawk, establishing combat air patrol positions between the distressed F-35 and Iranian coastal territories. The carrier's Air Operations Center designated a tanker aircraft for potential emergency refueling, identified 3 potential divert airfields, and transmitted continuous updates to the pilot regarding nearest safe landing options, weather conditions, and friendly force positions. The Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer USS Porter, operating 23 miles north of the carrier, adjusted its position to provide surface-to-air missile coverage for potential recovery operations. Every element of the carrier strike group shifted from routine patrol operations to emergency response configuration designed to protect the distressed aircraft and recover it safely, despite whatever mechanical failure was occurring. What nobody outside the immediate operational chain of command knew during these critical minutes was that the emergency was not mechanical failure at all. It was a deliberately transmitted signal designed to trigger exactly the Iranian response that was about to unfold. This brings us to the most important dimension of what actually happened over the Strait of Hormuz that afternoon, and why what appeared to be an emergency was actually an intelligence collection operation that would reveal Iranian tactical communications, radar activation patterns, and response timelines with precision that months of standard reconnaissance could not achieve. The F-35's pilot, operating under predetermined mission parameters established at the highest levels of U.S. Central Command, transmitted the emergency squawk while maintaining full aircraft functionality. Every system aboard the aircraft operated within normal parameters. The engine performance remained optimal. Flight control surfaces responded correctly. Avionics and weapon systems showed green status indicators across every subsystem. The emergency broadcast was pure theater, designed specifically to create the conditions under which Iranian military forces would reveal exactly how they would respond to a genuine American vulnerability. The pilot maintained the emergency squawk for 11 minutes while conducting what appeared to be standard emergency procedures, including altitude adjustments, course corrections toward potential divert airfields, and radio communications consistent with pilot attempting to assess and manage in-flight emergency. Iranian response began within 6 minutes of the initial emergency squawk. Coastal radar installations that had remained in standby mode activated to full operational status, providing American electronic warfare aircraft monitoring the electromagnetic spectrum with precise locations, frequencies, and capabilities of Iranian air defense networks. IRGC Navy fast attack boats positioned in the strait increased speed and adjusted courses toward projected flight paths the F-35 would need to follow for emergency landing attempts. Mobile missile batteries along the coast went to elevated alert status, their associated fire control radars coming online in patterns that revealed entire defensive networks the United States had only partially mapped through previous reconnaissance. Iranian military communications increased dramatically across multiple frequency bands, providing signals intelligence collection platforms with hours of intercepted traffic that would take weeks to fully analyze but immediately revealed command structures, response protocols, and tactical coordination procedures. The intelligence value of these 11 minutes exceeds what standard reconnaissance operations could achieve in 6 months of routine monitoring. When military forces believe they are responding to genuine emergency rather than training exercise or peacetime patrol, they employ actual operational procedures, real communication protocols, and authentic coordination measures. The IRGC Navy's response revealed exactly how long it takes for coastal observation posts to detect aircraft anomalies, how quickly fast attack boats can reposition for potential interdiction, which communication channels connect coastal defenses to central command authorities, and precisely which radar systems activate in response to specific threat scenarios. Every data point collected during those 11 minutes becomes foundation for operational planning that might someday need to suppress these defenses, evade these response patterns, or exploit the communication networks now thoroughly mapped. The F-35 maintained its emergency posture for precisely the duration required to trigger full Iranian defensive response while remaining within safe operating parameters for actual emergency recovery if genuine mechanical failure had occurred. At the 11-minute mark, the pilot transmitted updated situation reports indicating successful troubleshooting of supposed hydraulic anomaly, canceled the emergency squawk, and resumed normal patrol operations. The aircraft returned to the carrier 73 minutes after the initial emergency broadcast, landing without incident on the USS Gerald R. Ford's deck with every system functioning perfectly. Iranian forces, having revealed their complete response architecture, returned to standard defensive postures with no acknowledgement that they had just provided American intelligence services with the most comprehensive mapping of Strait of Hormuz defense networks achieved in years. But here is where it gets truly extraordinary. The operation did not end with the F-35's recovery. The intelligence collected during those 11 minutes immediately fed into a larger operational framework that had been developing for months, one designed to systematically map every dimension of Iranian military capability throughout the Persian Gulf region. The F-35 emergency was the third such orchestrated incident in a 6-week period, each designed to trigger different aspects of Iranian response and collectively building a complete picture of how Iran would respond to genuine American vulnerability or escalating crisis. The first incident involved a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft declaring fuel emergency while transiting near Iranian airspace. The second involved a surface vessel broadcasting engineering casualty while approaching the strait. The third was the F-35 incident. Each triggered distinct elements of Iranian defense architecture, and when analyzed collectively, they provided U.S. Central Command with unprecedented understanding of Iranian capabilities, limitations, response timelines, and tactical doctrine. The strategic implications extend far beyond intelligence collection. By demonstrating the ability to orchestrate controlled provocations that trigger Iranian military response without escalating to actual conflict, the United States established a template for managing future crises in the region. The operations revealed that Iranian forces respond predictably to specific stimuli, that response times and procedures follow consistent patterns, and that the entire defensive network operates with coordination vulnerabilities that could be exploited during actual conflict. More significantly, the operations demonstrated to Iranian military planners that American forces can operate with impunity throughout the strait, can create scenarios that force Iranian defensive response, and can collect detailed intelligence on those responses without Iran being able to prevent or counter the collection. The Iranian military almost certainly understands by now that the emergency was orchestrated rather than genuine. Retrospective analysis of the F-35's flight profile, the timing of system recovery, and the coordination of subsequent American intelligence collection activities would reveal to competent analysts that the incident was planned. But this knowledge provides Iran with no useful countermeasure. Even knowing that future American emergencies might be deliberately provoked, Iranian forces cannot risk ignoring genuine emergencies, cannot afford to not respond to potential vulnerabilities, and cannot change fundamental response architectures without degrading actual defensive capabilities. The United States established a scenario where Iranian forces must respond to American provocations, regardless of whether those provocations are genuine or orchestrated, and every response provides additional intelligence that further advantages American operational planning. The economic dimensions of this operation reveal additional strategic calculations. Markets did not react to the F-35 emergency squawk because the incident never entered public consciousness at a level that would trigger commodity trader responses. Oil prices continued their existing trajectory without disruption from an event that, had it escalated to actual aircraft loss or military confrontation, would have sent Brent crude prices above $95 per barrel within hours of news breaking. The ability to conduct intelligence operations in the Strait without triggering market reactions provides the United States with significant freedom of action. As long as operations remain below the threshold of public awareness or market-moving escalation, they can continue indefinitely without economic consequences that might generate domestic political pressure to curtail them. Iranian domestic political calculations face complications from these operations that extend beyond military implications. The IRGC maintains legitimacy partly through claims of defending Iranian sovereignty against American aggression and protecting vital economic interests, including oil exports through the strait. When American aircraft can declare emergencies, collect intelligence, and resume operations without Iranian forces being able to prevent any aspect of the operation, it undermines IRGC narratives about military competence and protective capability. Iranian leadership cannot publicly acknowledge the incidents without highlighting their inability to counter them. They cannot adjust defensive postures without revealing they know the incidents were orchestrated, which itself reveals intelligence analysis capabilities. The operations place Iranian military leadership in a strategic communications trap where every option carries costs. The timing of these operations correlates with larger diplomatic developments regarding Iranian nuclear program negotiations and regional security arrangements. As diplomatic discussions occur regarding potential frameworks for managing U.S.-Iran tensions, American military operations systematically demonstrate the conventional military imbalance that shapes negotiating dynamics. Iran enters any diplomatic process knowing that American forces can operate throughout the Persian Gulf with capabilities that Iranian defenses cannot effectively counter. This knowledge shapes Iranian negotiating positions, realistic assessments of military options, and calculations about whether resistance or accommodation better serves regime interests. The F-35 emergency operation and the broader intelligence collection campaign it represents serve as backdrop to diplomatic discussions, silent reminder of the military realities underlying any negotiated outcomes. The operation also reveals broader trends in how advanced military technology changes intelligence collection methodologies. Traditional reconnaissance depends on passive observation of adversary activities during routine operations. The F-35 operation demonstrates active intelligence collection where American forces deliberately create scenarios that compel adversary response, then comprehensively document those responses. The approach shifts intelligence collection from observation to orchestration, from patience to provocation, and from passive to active methodologies. As stealth technology, advanced sensors, and integrated data networks provide U.S. forces with capabilities to operate in contested environments while controlling escalation dynamics, this active intelligence collection approach becomes increasingly feasible across multiple domains and geographic regions. Subscribe to this channel right now if you have not already, and make sure notifications are turned on, because what happens next in the Strait of Hormuz depends entirely on how Iran responds to the knowledge that American forces can orchestrate these intelligence collection operations indefinitely. The next provocation could come tomorrow, next week, or next month, and when it does, understanding the pattern established by the F-35 emergency and the two operations that preceded it will be essential for interpreting what American strategy is actually accomplishing. Hit that subscribe button now because this story is developing in real time and you cannot afford to miss the next development. The question facing Iranian military leadership now centers on how to respond to a strategic problem that has no obvious solution. Every military exercise, every defensive response, every activation of radar networks or reposition of assets provides American intelligence with additional data, but not responding to potential American emergencies or vulnerabilities would create even worse security gaps, leaving Iran unable to exploit genuine opportunities if they arise. The dilemma is fundamental and structural rather than tactical, meaning no adjustment in Iranian procedures fully resolves the problem without creating different vulnerabilities elsewhere. This is the definition of strategic advantage, where one side's actions create dilemmas for the adversary regardless of how the adversary responds. The United States, meanwhile, gained far more from 11 minutes of orchestrated emergency than from months of routine surveillance. The operation cost nothing beyond normal flight operations that would have occurred anyway. Risk remained minimal because the F-35 maintained full operational capability throughout, and supporting assets provided comprehensive protection. The intelligence return exceeded all operational costs by orders of magnitude. This cost-benefit calculation ensures similar operations will continue across different platforms, different scenarios, and different geographic areas within the broader Persian Gulf region. Iranian military forces will face repeated scenarios designed to trigger responses that reveal capabilities, procedures, and vulnerabilities. Each response provides additional intelligence. Each refusal to respond creates different security gaps. Iran cannot escape the dynamic the United States established. The implications for regional allies and competitors also merit examination. Gulf Cooperation Council states watching these operations understand that American military capabilities in the Strait remain overwhelming despite Iranian attempts to develop asymmetric counters. This understanding reinforces alliance relationships, encourages defense cooperation, and shapes how regional states calculate their security interests relative to both American protection and Iranian threats. Chinese and Russian observers tracking these operations see demonstrated American capabilities for intelligence collection in contested maritime environments, capabilities that could apply equally to South China Sea scenarios or Black Sea operations. The intelligence collection methodology and the underlying technologies enabling it represent broadly applicable capabilities that extend far beyond the specific Iran context. Yet the operation also reveals limitations in what military advantage can achieve strategically. The United States can conduct intelligence operations throughout the strait, can map Iranian defenses comprehensively, can demonstrate military superiority across every measurable dimension. None of this capability resolves the fundamental political question of what ultimate American objectives are regarding Iran, how much sustained pressure Iranian governance structures can withstand before collapse or escalation, or whether military superiority translates into favorable political outcomes. The F-35 operation succeeded brilliantly at its tactical intelligence collection mission. Whether it contributes to broader strategic success depends entirely on questions that cannot be answered through military operations alone. Iranian decision-making now occurs within an environment where American intelligence regarding Iranian military capabilities approaches complete transparency. Every defensive network is mapped. Every response protocol is documented. Every communication channel is monitored. The IRGC cannot move forces without American surveillance detecting it, cannot activate defenses without providing additional intelligence, cannot conduct exercises without revealing procedures. This level of transparency fundamentally alters the strategic calculus around potential military confrontation. Iranian military leaders understand they would enter any conflict with American forces having comprehensive knowledge of Iranian capabilities, while Iran maintains only limited understanding of American systems. This imbalance affects every contingency plan, every scenario analysis, every calculation about whether military resistance could achieve any objective that negotiation could not accomplish more effectively and at lower cost. The clock continues running on broader tensions in the region. Iranian oil exports face ongoing restrictions from American sanctions. Economic pressure accumulates despite various circumvention efforts. The nuclear program advances toward thresholds that American and Israeli leadership have indicated might trigger military response. Proxy conflicts throughout the Middle East continue grinding forward. The Strait of Hormuz remains the critical choke point through which Iranian economic survival depends. Within this broader context, the F-35 emergency operation represents one more increment of American pressure, one more demonstration of military advantage, one more data point in Iranian calculations about whether regime survival requires accommodation or continued resistance. What happens next depends on decisions being made in Tehran, Washington, and capitals throughout the region. Iranian military leadership must decide whether responding to future American provocations provides net benefit or merely feeds additional intelligence to adversary planning. American planners must determine whether continued intelligence collection operations maintain strategic advantage or risk miscalculation that escalates beyond intended boundaries. Regional states must calculate whether current trajectory leads towards stable deterrent balance or eventual military confrontation that would devastate regional economies regardless of military outcomes. These decisions unfold against backdrop of historical precedents suggesting that prolonged military standoffs in the Persian Gulf eventually resolve through either accommodation or conflict, and current indicators point toward neither outcome emerging clearly. The F-35 that broadcast emergency Squawk code over the Strait of Hormuz completed its mission exactly as planned, returned safely to the carrier, and provided American intelligence services with data that will inform operational planning for years. But whether that tactical success contributes to strategic outcomes that serve American interests depends on questions that extend far beyond what happened in 11 minutes above the world's most important oil choke point. The next emergency Squawk could come at any time. The next Iranian response will reveal whether they learned from this incident or whether the pattern continues unchanged. The only certainty is that the advantage established through this operation persists until Iran discovers effective countermeasures or until the broader strategic competition resolves through means that render tactical intelligence advantages irrelevant. The Strait of Hormuz remains open. 21 million barrels of oil continue flowing through it daily. American carrier strike groups maintain their presence. Iranian coastal defenses remain active. And somewhere in the intelligence analysis centers processing data from that 11-minute emergency, analysts continue extracting insights that will shape the next operation, the next provocation, the next collection opportunity. What you just learned about this F-35 emergency is what happened. What it means for what comes next is the question that will determine whether this region moves towards stability or crisis, whether Iran accommodates or escalates, and whether American military advantage translates into lasting strategic success or merely temporary tactical victory in a competition that will continue as long as both sides maintain incompatible interests in the world's most strategic waterway.